welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Tuning in for a match week 2 review, joined by, it's the Three Musketeers back in for a bit of Bundesliga chat. So looking forward to getting stuck in. Gents, how are we doing? I believe it's not a bank holiday over in Germany, so you'd been hard at work today rather than myself having a lazy day to kind of review and get up to speed on my Bundesliga notes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a good day over here in the Bundesrepublik. The weather's taken a bit of a turn for the worse, though. To be honest, I've got to say, yeah, we've got a really nice summer in general, but we're getting the British weather now. A little bit of that at the moment.
Peter, how's things on your end?
Doing wonderful, gentlemen. Another wonderful. It's wonderful to be back in the Bundesrepublik. I can't tell you how overjoyed I am to be so, and it's always a pleasure and a privilege to share this space with you and talk about the world's best footballing beat. We had another great weekend, so
we did. Yeah, there was lots of exciting games. Same structure as last week. Hopefully be even more succinct and smooth. We haven't got any audio problems, touch wood, this week. We're all set to get going. Before we do so, all the usual little bits and bobs. First and foremost, please do smash a thumbs up and a like on this video this evening. Smash a thumbs up for your team if they've done well. Don't put a thumbs down if they did badly, though, because we don't want that. Comment along if you've got any questions in regards to tonight's show, if you've got any particular comments in regards to how your team's done or the ordering of our featured 4 this evening. And, of course, smash that red button and subscribe to the channel. As well, you can take us beyond the 1,000 marker, as we have now fantastically hit 1,000 subs on YouTube. Really great news for the channel as a whole and everyone that contributes to it. So, yeah, really, really thankful for everyone that subscribes and has subscribed and will subscribe in the future. It's all excellent, and we love the community that we're building. So onwards and upwards to 2K, and then I'm sure we'll be a million in no time. Watch out, KSI and co. But anyway, less of that and more of Bundesliga. We'll kick off with our 4th most exciting game of the weekend. The 4th place game, I think, was a bit of a tricky one, and me and Mark ummed and erred about this one as to which game we were going to kind of throw in there. There's a couple of others that probably get honourable mentions, but we've gone for. Thank you very much for the congrats. It's lovely landmark, and we'll keep on pressing on. But anyway, the 4th place game we're going for this evening is Bayern 3, Augsburg 1. It's a tricky one to put in there, but I think that there's probably a lot to talk about in relation to Bayern still. We had Augsburg as our top part of our top 2 last weekend, didn't we, with the 4-4 match, and we found quite a lot of difficulty trying to extract what to take from that game from an Augsburg point of view. But if we're talking about the game, gents, I think, from a Bayern perspective, they just kind of accelerated as and when required during this match. It was a game that sometimes kind of drifted at times. I was tweeting about it whilst watching, and sometimes I did find it a little bit sticky in patches. But, Bayern have now got that X factor in Harry Kane to finish off those chances. Not that they don't necessarily always finish off their chances, but Kane has now bagged three goals now in his first 2 matches, and is starting to sync up quite well and get on the end of assists from Alphonso Davies and co. Mark, first of all, what did you make of this match in general, and from a Bayern point of view? Are you starting to see any patterns in relation to the link up of Mr. Harry Kane?
Yeah, I don't think it was a classic match, this one, to be honest. And I think first thing I've got to say is I've got to give a lot of credit to the away side, Augsburg. I thought they played really well in the game, actually, especially in the first half an hour. They made it. A lot of people were saying this could be a 5-6-0 thrashing, to be honest, which is but it was never that kind of game. I thought Augsburg started really well. I thought Demirovic had a really good game as well. I thought Berisha was a lot better as well, linking up that play. And early on, they had a few chances, namely through Demirovic. But another thing we've got to mention is that the opening goal was very, very unlucky on Augsburg as well, to be honest. It was just one of them. And as I say, I think they've been the better side until 32 minutes when Bayern opened the scoring through that own goal from Doekhi. And I just felt as though, it hit the post, hit him again, and then just trickled over the line, didn't it? It's the kind of goal that only ever seems to go for the big teams. You know what I mean? It's one of those, really. And it was a poor goal to concede. And then, to be honest, even the second goal, it was Dorsch with his hand high. These days, it is a penalty. But it was another, basically, Bayern had done nothing and they were 2-0 up, as far as I'm concerned. Harry came with a brilliant penalty. All England fans know, despite that penalty that he took against France, guys, that he is a great penalty taker in general.
Can be relied on.
2-0 up, having done very, very little, to be honest. But, that's the power of Harry Kane. I said when he first came in that he's going to be the new Lewandowski, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much a cheat code when it comes to scoring goals. And then, his second goal was a really, really cute finish, wasn't it? It was a really nice layoff, and that was a beautiful finish. And, that's the kind of thing we're going to expect more and more from England's number 9. But in general, you mentioned about patterns of play. I didn't actually think Bayern were that good in this game, to be honest. And I think they've been a little bit lucky to get 2 comfortable wins. I think they've had a little bit of the rub of the green in both games so far. But again, that's what you got when you got Harry Kane. Last week, when they were struggling against Werder Bremen at times, he was the one that put that ball in the back of the net for the 2-0. And, he scored a really good goal in this game as well. Got to say, again, Augsburg, a really nice consolation. It was probably the goal of the match, actually, the Augsburg goal. Really, really nice play from Demirovic to thread it through to Bellio. But, it certainly wasn't an easy match, an easy win for Bayern Munich. But, they are starting to win games by larger margins, which they weren't doing at the back end of last season. I don't know if Peter agrees with me, but I didn't think it was like vintage Bayern in this game. That was my view anyway.
No, certainly not. We actually have 2 rather labored Bayern performances to start the season. As Rory was pointing out, I think he pointed it out well, that you have sort of a stop-start Bayern at this point. They're far from clicking on all cylinders. The comment from David is also true. Mark and I delivered not 1 but 2 Augsburg watch-alongs last season. They are a very, very difficult side to predict. And actually, on this channel, we probably give them more coverage than the German media often does. They're sort of forgotten on occasion. The discussion as pertains to Bayern right now is, what are they going to do? In Germany, the phrase "holding 6" is everywhere. That is what Thomas Tuchel wants. And is he going to get it? Is he going to get 1 more player before this transfer window closes, or is he going to perhaps get 2? The midfield pairing of Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka, the 2 German national team midfielders, which we were discussing last week, it's my impression that these 2 once best friends and close mates have simply, their games have evolved beyond one another, and it almost seems as if they do not wish to play together anymore. You think back to just before COVID lockdown, when the 2 of them started that We Kick Corona charity. That was the peak, the height of their friendship. And what happened after COVID lockdown? Well, Goretzka came back sporting 10 more pounds of muscle. He wants to be a box-to-box midfielder who rushes in there and scores more goals. Kimmich wants to score more goals. He doesn't want to be compared to Philipp Lahm in any sort of respect. So Tuchel wants his holding 6. He talks about it in press conferences and uses the English phrase. Will he get it? There are transfer rumors galore. The only reliable one that I'm thinking of right now is Leicester City's Wilfred Ndidi. It's possible they may be able to secure him on loan. But we have a transfer window that's going to close in 6 days' time, or 5 days' time, and they need an additional midfielder. And a keeper, as pointed out. Peretz is the third choice keeper that they brought in, the Israeli. Rory should be able to hold down the fort until Neuer comes back. We'll get to Alexander Nübel in a moment, I'm sure.
Possibly, yeah. But yeah, no, it is all very interesting. One really interesting point I found in the second half was Conrad Limer's cameo at right back because of the ongoing saga with Benjamin Pavard, which I presume will be settled relatively soon. I think there are positive discussions about him moving over to Inter Milan. As you say, there are lots of players being linked with Bayern in regards to the number 6 role. Hilariously, Scotty McTominay has also been linked with Bayern.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and friend of the show, Derek Gray did pick up on this, and he said, well, we've already got a top international from England. Why can't we have one from Scotland? So he's a fan, and why wouldn't he be being a proud Scotsman? So it'd be so very interesting to see if they did do that. But I mean, such a deal that sees McTominay go to Bayern on loan and United to take Gravenberch on loan would be pure mythology in my eyes. I mean, what a deal that would be for United. But anyway, there's lots of work for Bayern to do. As we say, I think Augsburg definitely held their hands up, and as Mark very correctly pointed out, with the own goal and the handball, I mean, I've no idea what Dorsch is doing on the edge of his area. He's got absolutely zero argument putting his arm up like that. In a completely unnatural position as the game stands where it is now with VAR. He only would have got away with it if he had just got outside the box, but he was inside. And that was that. It was a good third goal for Bayern. Nice build-up play. And as you say, Mark, it was a good Augsburg goal as well. But anyway, we'll move on to game 3, and we might as well move on to game 2 now, actually. Tell you what, I enjoyed this game for 55 minutes or 52 minutes or whatever it was. I'll gladly pass it on to you two chaps in a second, but it's a hard thing to kind of out based on the scoreline, but there's positivity to take from Stuttgart's point of view. And Leipzig didn't play well in the first half, and Stuttgart played a solid game, waited their chances. But Guirassy could have had a hat-trick in that first half. He scored from the mistake in the end where Raum gives the ball away, and Stuttgart are actually pressing quite high up on the times where they did choose to press, and they were picky about doing that, and they let Leipzig have the ball when they were comfortable and got into shape. But I think the two VAR checks that didn't lead to penalties shook up Stuttgart even more so on either side of the halves. The first one where Guirassy falls into one of the Leipzig players and they go down kind of claiming a penalty, which I thought was ridiculous. I don't know why they even bothered to check that. And then the other one where Anton, I think, kicks Orban in the head indirectly from a free kick, which Orban had headed. I kind of understand looking at that one, but again, clearly not a penalty. And then shortly after the equaliser came, and I'll maybe pass over to you, Peter, to start with this one. And unfortunately, the momentum and the performance of Nubel unfortunately went in the wrong direction from a VfB point of view, and Leipzig really turned up the heat.
Yeah, that's the worst news for Stuttgart, that Nubel is in shaky form now, because he was on thin ice as it was. I mean, he's under so much pressure. He's under so much scrutiny. As I was watching the game on Friday night on DAZN, the German broadcasters could not stop talking about him. The play-by-play announcer was begging for commentary from the color commentator every time Nubel touched the ball. And he did make some strong saves on both sides of the half, including, good Lord, was he strong as an ox on that one just after the restart. But the goal that broke the dam, so to speak, resulted from what was a pretty dumb back pass from Dan Axel Zagadou, and Nubel really, before he was clearing, should have had his head up. There was some luck involved in that goal, obviously. I mean, Henrichs was just simply in the right position at the right time. And that is how the dam burst, so to speak. I don't think Nübel was at fault for any one of the other Leipzig goals, with perhaps the exception of the Xavi Simons one, in which he couldn't shut him down. It's unfortunate. They were unlucky. Of course, Sebastian Hoeneß had to do without Enzo Milo on short notice. Lilian Egloff had to come into the midfield. And I think that more than any other player really affected Wu Yongzhong, the new 10 that they signed from Freiburg, who was a fabulous creative presence in the opening fixture. And without Zhong really understanding what he was supposed to be doing outside of the box, I think that some of Stuttgart's just a little bit choppy. And there was a slight form dip for both fullbacks, for Ito and Stenzel. Stenzel, I might still be worried about in the same sense that I am as Nübel, because these are two players who are under a lot of scrutiny. Two players who have had their rows with the media, are controversial in their own respect, and for them to have a form dip could possibly have something of a snowball effect. Well, what else to say? But we're the luck, and with that in mind, I'll turn things over to Mark for some Leipzig analysis. Happy to provide some myself, but Mark is enthusiastic about RB and their transfer windows. So, what can you tell us about the German Red Bulls in this one, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I want to mention about them is I was a little bit surprised about some of the outbursts from Marco Rose at the halftime. I think, to me, that suggested a man that was under a little bit of pressure already. I think, obviously, the fact they lost that first game, they were a little bit unlucky to lose at Leverkusen last week, but I was a little bit surprised because, obviously, Rosa is held in very high regard at the German Red Bulls, and I was a bit surprised to see him that angry, but whatever he did seem to work. But I'm not going to say it's all positive, really, what's happening at RB at the moment, because, it does suggest that he's maybe not completely satisfied with what's going on at the club, because, as Rory mentioned, I mean, it wasn't even close to being a penalty, that one in the first half, and he was so angry about it, Rosa, and it's just... and then when the goal goes in, obviously the Henrichs goal goes in, like he's celebrating like they just won the league. And I just think, I think those are signs that maybe all's not quite right to the German Red Bulls in Leipzig at the moment. And, obviously they did go on to play really well. I want to say that Xavi Simons, I thought, was fantastic in the second half. He had a poor debut last week, but that assist for the brilliant Dani Olmo goal, which was ultimately the winning goal for the 2-1, I thought that was a beautiful goal from a Leipzig perspective. Dani Olmo he's in for a big season this year, and as is Xavi Simons, if you can fill in the form from last year. And obviously Openda as well, getting his second goal in 2 weeks. He seems to be a real menace in the air, doesn't he? He seems to be in the right place at the right time after the looping cross came in from the side. And then by that point, it was game over, really. But... yeah, I think there's a lot to be positive for Leipzig still, but it's just, I'm a little bit worried about David Raum at times too. I just don't think his form has been, he's disappointed me since he joined Leipzig. I'm going to be honest. I think when I saw him at Fürth and then at Hoffenheim, I thought he looked like a real quality player, but I'm starting to doubt him a little bit at left back. Maybe they might need an upgrade on him if they want to really kind of achieve the big things. Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, I'm glad to see Kampl coming back into the team again today. He is a player that, for me, has always been really good in that side. He played well in the kind of alongside Schlager as well, who came back into the side for Seewald. So yeah, there's obviously that squad is just completely packed with quality. I think that's another thing that stood out from this game. I mean, just look at that bench that they had in this game. Baumgartner coming off the bench, Timo Werner, Šeško. Emil Forsberg, who's been there for years as well, and a little bit surprising to see Poulsen start the game, but also nice in some ways. I think, he had a decent game in the second half too. But yeah, I mean, my only worry for Leipzig at the minute is the fact that, I don't understand what that whole role, I don't know if you guys agree with me. Maybe you just think it was a bit of bad temperament in the moment, but to me, it kind of suggested a little bit more that maybe all's not quite right in Leipzig at the moment.
I mean, you go first, Peter, and I'll come in on this to finish it off.
Well, I mean, they had him rattled. They quite clearly did. I think that Rose is known for blowing his lid. That's absolutely the case. I think, though, I mean, the thing is that you mentioned that Rose made the absolute two right tactical decisions here in starting Kevin Kampl alongside Saba Schlager in midfield. You know, the problem, that midfield partnership between Schlager and Seiwald just was not working. And Seiwald is, what is he, 22? He looks like he could be 17. He shouldn't be the starting six for this team. And he giving Poulsen the start was huge. I think Poulsen played an incredible game. He's a club man, the Super Dane, as they call him. He's been with them ever since they've been in the third division. I don't think he's moving to Dortmund, unfortunately. After I don't think anybody wants to move to Dortmund and sign a one-year deal after what happened with Anthony Modeste last year. So I think that, you know, those were the two right personnel calls. And there were, I did some match reporting on this for Bully News and a lot of post-match reaction. Basically, Willy Orban, who is wearing the captain's armband, Benny Henrichs, and David Raum all got together in the cabin at halftime and said, we're going to win this game. You know, Raum, he's actually had a very, very good training camp. And he did make that error, that passing error that led to Guirassy's goal. So he seems to be hit or miss. But you know, he's improved a little bit, like, you know, Benedict Höved's style. Seems to maybe have similar hair loss problems over the summer as well. But he's I think, you know, he's a fighter, and he wants that left back role from Robin Gosens, which we're going to get to him. But I think that you know, Rosa, he's a fiery coach. This is a fiery squad. You know what German football purists think about Leipzig, of course. But, I mean, they are an excellent team, and they have a real sense of leadership, I think, in the locker room as well. And they have a coach who, I mean, he just runs this 4-2-2-2 system and plugs in the right things. So, I mean, they should absolutely still be considered title contenders at this point, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, picking up on the Poulsen thing, watching the game myself, and yeah, maybe it's a biased view, but I obviously thought that I was quite happy with him starting ahead of Šeško or Werner from a pace point of view. I thought Zagadou did well in the air against him for most of the game, and I think Poulsen came more into the game as it went on. But I think he was fairly well handled to start with, personally speaking. But obviously, you know, he was linked to a lot of good things that Leipzig did overall.
And he played with
yeah, and he and then one other thing I wanted to pick up, and again, you know, you can call me biased if you want, but I thought the behaviour of pretty much the entire Leipzig team was rubbish. Constant moaning with the ref, you know, obviously asking for those two penalties either side of the half. You know, even when they're 2-1, 3-1 up, just constant flapping about, and you know, it was also rattling the VfB players, I think, noticeably because of their constant moaning. It was getting on my nerves as well, for a better word. So yeah, I didn't particularly like that. I'll be monitoring that as the season goes on in terms of their behaviour on the pitch, and obviously interesting to see maybe it's reflected from head coach as well. Anyway, we shall move on nice and swiftly because we've been aching over for that, and I'd quite like to now leave that in the back view mirror. We can move on and hopefully to better scorelines and times for VfB. Second best match of the weekend. We have got our first appearance in our featured for new boys, or one of the new boys, Darmstadt. Unfortunately came a cropper to 10-man Union Berlin, the ever improving, the ever impressing Union Berlin. Obviously, this, you know, the game started off in ideal sense for the away side chaps, with Gosens making his first full Bundesliga debut at age 29, and settled in very nicely. A bit of head tennis from Darmstadt, weren't able to clear the ball very well, and maybe it's a trend that we'll come on to later on as we pick up on this match, maybe more from a set piece point of view, especially. Gosens does exceptionally well, kind of jogging past, knocking it inside one of his men, and then curls it around or through the legs of another into the back of the net for 1-0 early doors. And you're thinking, yeah, it's going to be a long afternoon for Darmstadt until, a red card that will not please Union fans and maybe is going to be something that we're going to see a lot more during this season, chaps, because of, a couple of quick bookings for new boy Aronson. The first of which, correct me if I'm wrong, was for kicking the ball away in terms of a time-wasting shenanigan. And then the second was a genuine yellow for a foul on Nuremberger, I think it was. And therefore, Union, you think, have got a lot of work to do going down to 10 men. And then the equaliser comes really quickly. A delightful little flick from it still technically belongs to Stuttgart, from Luca Pfeiffer, finding some form, some creativity for Mehlem to go through on goal and prod it through for 1-1. So then you're thinking some positivity for the home side. And then Mark, Union's know-how and set-piece authority came through in the end for Gosens to then head through Behrens to get on the end of one, and bravely Doekhi as well, making it 4-1. And I'll hand over to you for a bit more chat on Union's kind of presence from an aerial point of view.
Yeah, I mean, they just completely destroyed them in the air, didn't they? Which did surprise me a little bit, because last year Darmstadt were known as a side that were really, really solid defensively, especially in the air. Like, I actually saw them at Nuremberg last year, and Nuremberg didn't create a single chance in that game. And I expected better, to be honest, from Darmstadt. And I just felt as though some of the goals they were conceding, obviously they get back level. And as you say, it was a good goal, actually, that they equalised with. And obviously Union are down to 10 men. We know Union have got quality. The squad is packed with quality nowadays. And, Union have added to what was always a hard-working squad with some real quality. No other than Gosens, who is a massive signing for them. He obviously leaps the highs to head them in front. But the goals, I mean, the Behrens goal is appalling defending, to be honest with you. I mean, that's just not good enough at Zweite Liga level, let alone Bundesliga level. I mean, I think it was Riedel who just basically pumped a clearance straight to Behrens, and he couldn't believe it for his 4th goal of the season. He's not going to get an easier one this year.
Was it Magicler? The VfB loanee, I think it was him, wasn't it? Who
magically, yeah. But it was desperately poor defending. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, and that was a terrible goal to concede. I'm sorry, and then in the second half, I mean, later already hit the post through a corner before Doekhi almost got knocked out heading in the 4th goal, and obviously they hit the post as well. I mean, Darmstadt did create chances in that second half. They hit a post, they missed a couple, and actually a big moment was the save from Rennerv as well. I mean, that would have made it 3-2. That was a monster save, that one. Absolutely brilliant save. But I mean, from an Union perspective, it's a really impressive win. I mean, you 1-all down to 10 men away from home, a brilliant atmosphere in Darmstadt, their first game back in the Bundesliga, and you still end up winning 4-1. That's pretty impressive, regardless of how you do it. But I'm going to be honest, I'm very worried about that Darmstadt defense. I mean, that was a disaster class of defending. I'm going to be honest.
It was a defense that we lauded so much in regards to, obviously, it's making the step up ultimately from the Zweite to the Bundesliga. But it was a team that we thought would be built off solid defense and being able to nab those 1-0 wins. And, that is still yet to come, no doubt. I'm sure they'll sharpen up, but it was quite evident from set pieces. And Union did all of this even with that double injury, in the first half to Fofana, and then Geraldo Becker, the sub, being subbed off. And Peter, anything that you picked up from either side, it was a great, obviously a great atmosphere, but ultimately ended up being a not so pleasant first day out at home for Darmstadt.
Actually, I was surprised to learn after the match that Fofana was not injured. When Urs Fischer sent Geraldo Becker on for Fofana, I thought, okay, this has got to be an injury, because as we were discussing last week, I said that these two players are so similar they could be doppelgangers. But Fofana was taken off as part of a tactical shift, because he only wanted one striker, and Becker was a little bit stronger on set pieces. Behrens was stronger on set pieces. So what you saw on the tactical camp, I was there, I could not believe my eyes. That obviously when you lose a man that early, you try to format into a 5-3-1. But this was a ridiculous looking 5-3-1. I mean, it was you had Alex Král, Geraldo Becker, Aysel Ayduni right up there behind Kevin Behrens. The Union press was fantastic. I mean, they did not look shorthanded from open play at all. You mentioned that the resulting 3 goals, or Union's further 3 goals, did come from set pieces, on which Darmstadt are going to have to work very, very hard. Torsten Lieberknecht has to do set pieces on the training ground all this week because they were absolutely woeful. But for Union, everything is going right. Mark brought up the Renau save. The Danish keeper, Rune, will be very, very pleased to know, is off to an absolute scintillating start to the season. I hope he doesn't leave for the Serie A. Kevin Behrens, that is his 4th headed goal of the season. Kevin Behrens. Alex Král, who is filling in midfield for the injured skipper Rani Khedira. I mean, Král for Schalke last season, do you remember anything special that he happened to do for Schalke last season? I personally do not. But he's just stepped into that system. And I think, Gosens put it right. It's okay if you pronounce it Gosens. It's fine. Gosens is the German pronunciation. He, in his post-match interview, of course, he's the hero of the Bundesrepublik. Everybody wants to talk about him. But he said, that he'd only been in Union for a week, but he felt like there were, and this is the actual quote from him, certain automatisms and mechanisms that he could easily slide into. And what I interpret that as is, we all know Urs Fischer never really changes his system. Oliver Runert, he gets targeted players who are specific upgrades for Fischer's set of tactics. Surprise, surprise, Fischer rotated his wingbacks in and out. That's what he's going to do over the course of the Champions League season. So, that's what Gosens, now you have me saying Gosens said during his post-match interview. He just said, like, this club it's clockwork. It's Swiss clockwork. It's Urs Fischer's Swiss piece of clockwork that you can just slide into and you can succeed in, and anybody can succeed in it. We saw so many players succeed at this club. We saw Marcus Ingvartsen become a star at this club. We saw Joe Payampalo score goals. We saw Max Kruse pump up his worth and completely obliterate all of his off the field issues with this club. That's all I can say. In terms of Darmstadt, they have done their best to sort of upgrade this roster for the top flight. I should point out that Luca Pfeiffer, not only did he hit the post this week, he hit the post last week as well. So your Stuttgart loanee, who actually had a very successful season on loan at Darmstadt before. He was a good get. I think he could have some potential in the top flight. Hopefully we'll see him succeed. Maglika, I have not liked what I've seen from him thus far. Krančić, the Wolfsburg loanee, I don't like. A player that Mark can probably tell you a little bit more about, who I've been very, very intrigued by because I've seen him start on both flanks in the 2 opening games this season, is none other than the aptly named Fabian Nürnberger from Nuremberg, who decided to transfer to Darmstadt for some reason. I don't know. It seemed to be working out for him in Nuremberg, but I thought he actually played a decent game, and he seems to be able to operate on both flanks. Mark, what do you think of Fabian Nürnberger?
Yeah, he was a club hero in Nuremberg. Obviously, the fact that he's a namesake, but he's actually a Nuremberger from Hamburg. That's the only problem. Yeah. Like that would have been the perfect kind of thing if he was a Nuremberger that played for Nuremberg and he was from Nuremberg, but he wasn't. Unfortunately, he was from Hamburg. But yeah, he is a very versatile player. You can see him on both sides, and he was a fan's favorite. He was probably our best player for the last 2-3 seasons, to be honest. But a lot of people were a little bit shocked to see him leave for Darmstadt because obviously, it's one season in the Bundesliga, but I mean, yeah, I think most people thought he would stay for another year at Nuremberg because it is a bigger club than Darmstadt at the end of the day. And I would imagine salary-wise, he's not getting that much more at Darmstadt. But obviously, he fancied a year in the Bundesliga, and you can't blame him, really. But yeah, I've been quite impressed with what I've seen from him so far in a Darmstadt shirt, but it's going to be hard for them this season. And as you mentioned, I mean, Pfeiffer has done okay in the first 2 games, but he doesn't really, I'm sure Rory would admit, after his days at Stuttgart, he doesn't come with that much of a track record in the Bundesliga. But I mean, maybe as a starting number 9, then he can do a little bit more. I've not seen that much from Manu so far. I mean, Mehlem had a good finish in the game, but I just don't see enough in that roster so far. The problem is that what me and Rory expected when we did the preview was that they're going to be really, really solid defensively, especially at home. But we saw the complete opposite. As you mentioned, Peter, I mean, on set plays, I'm not sure I've seen a worse Bundesliga performance from set plays than they put in that game. I know they lost the best defender to Augsburg as well, who, by the way, hasn't been, I think he's injured. He's not been playing for Augsburg so far.
And their best striker as well.
Yeah, they did. They lost Tietz as well. Yeah, they lost, So, I mean, it's tough. You know what I mean? It is tough. But, yeah, as you mentioned, they've got to do a bit more work on the training ground, and they've got to improve within the net. They've probably got another 2 months to try and find the feet. And then if they don't start getting results, then we're going to see them like Greuther Fürth when it was too late by the time they started to improve, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of room for improvement, but I'm sure we will see it. Look, they were better, in their first game against Frankfurt. Obviously, the derby and emotions that go with that, I suppose. But, they're only undone by a good bit of movement by Kolo Muani ultimately in the end. Anyway, first game, pick of the week. We have Heidenheim 2, Hoffenheim 3. We thought the Bundesliga newcomers were going to have their first ever Bundesliga win when they were 2-0 up with, the first Hoffenheim goal comes on 72 or 77 minutes, one of the two. Either way around, not much time left. And ultimately the comeback is made. But history is made for Heidenheim, their first goals in the Bundesliga. And it did come for the same player, although Beste did have to wait a little bit longer after Heidenheim were awarded a penalty. Obviously, much to the delight of the home crowd. But Baumann, very solid Bundesliga goalkeeper, makes the save to his right and, keeps Beste out. Later on in the half, good bit of play by the fullback, I think it was Traore, gets down the right-hand side and is fouled by one of the Hoffenheim new boys, Butzler. And at first they thought it was another penalty, but after again a VAR check, it ends up being a free kick on the edge of the area. Not the most promising angle to work with either. And Beste steps up quite happily and whips it in to into the back post and in off the back post through the crowd with great pace, amazing strike to send the home crowd into absolute raptures. Absolutely bouncing the stadium was. They held through the half and did a really good job. And then set piece then enables them to go 2-0 up with Pieringer. Simple close range header, not very good marking from Hoffenheim, and very close, powerful header, and nothing that Baumann can do from there. 2-0, and again, stadium is bouncing, the atmosphere is rocking. But then, Peter, the Hoffenheim comeback and the nerves. I mean, the first goal comes from a recycled set piece as well, doesn't it? And Beier just kind of ghosts in to volley very centrally, and that sometimes happens after first phase of a set piece happens. Who your man is, but then it kind of goes all the way over. It's recycled, and then there might have just been a bit of confusion, and from there on in, it was hard work, and Hoffenheim just used that momentum to go all the way through them.
Indeed. We were joking a little bit before we went on air that this might have been the best match in Germany that nobody saw between Heidenheim and Hoffenheim. And it was a fascinating match on a tactical level as well. Another thing that I was talking about before on air is the squad balance there in Hoffenheim. They have 7 central defenders. And so what Pellegrino Matarazzo, his debut tactical constellation, actually featured Marius Bülter as sort of a left wing back. And Bülter is off to a terrible start because of this positioning. You recall that we were singing his praises many times, particularly in his late form surge for Schalke last season. And he's off to a terrible start because he has to fill in at left wing back here. He put Grisha Prömel back there with Florian Grilic in a sort of a protective double 6 setup. It did not work at all. Prömel should be further up the field. Weghorst, Kramaric, and Bebu were scrunched close together. Kaderabek was trying to work some sort of a split stagger with Bülter. It was all a mess. And if you contrast that with Heidenheim's tactics are actually kind of interesting as well, because to my knowledge, I think he's running 4 of his 5 strikers, Frank Schmidt's 4 of Frank Schmidt's 5 attackers are strikers. You got Kleindienst, Pieringer from Schalke, Dinci from Bremen, Beste, whom I remember from Bremen a little while. He was, I think he works as a winger he worked as a winger in the second Bundesliga. And Tomala doesn't work as a natural striker anymore either. So it could be that these are players that I remember from way back. But it's a very forward-thinking constellation that Frank Schmidt has, and they were able to knock a couple of goals out of this disorganized Hoffenheim rabble. But unfortunately, if you have that many forward players, they're going to tire out. And Matarazzo made the right tactical substitutions. The real hero of this match, of course, was Maximilian Beier, who just returned to Hoffenheim from a two-year loan stint with Hannover. He created 2 chances before actually, and before getting a goal and scoring an assist there. Yeah. What else can I say about that? I mean, it was an interesting match on a tactical level. It's a shame that, and it was a fun match in how it wrapped up. Just an absolute glorious finish. I think you put it very well in describing that. I wonder how many people in the Bundesrepublik watched it, or maybe even watched the highlights.
Well, it was such an exciting game. It was hard not to.
Here on this channel, we'll give you full coverage of the top flight, irrespective of what German said. What are your thoughts on the game? I mean, it's Mark. What do you think? You're a little bit. Mark is more knowledgeable in the Zweite Bundesliga than myself.
Yeah, I mean, Beste as a player, I think we're going to be able to look forward to him this season. I thought he played really well. He actually got 12 goals and 13 assists last year from the wing for Heidenheim. And I mean, the year before he was playing for Regensburg, and he was equally as good as well. And then he got the big move to Heidenheim, and he did really, really well. And I just thought he was brilliant. I really enjoyed watching him in this game. I mean, he missed the penalty, but he showed a lot of courage to get back and score that brilliant free kick. It was an opportunist effort, and most people would have tried to cross the ball into the area, and that showed the skill the guy's got. He's famous for being a set play master, really. He can take free kicks, he can cross the ball in, and that's what we're going to see a lot from him this season. And I think in contrast to Darmstadt, I actually think, Frank Schmidt has already got a tune out of this roster, in my opinion, and there's no doubt that they should have 3 points on the board, and in many ways it's a travesty that they didn't end up with, because I actually thought they were really good. I thought Beste was superb. I also really like the player Pieringer as well. I think he's looking like a player that, I didn't know much about him before this season, but he looked really good. And also in parts in the second half against Wolfsburg last week as well, he did really well. He took his goal well. Kleindienst as well, Mr. Little Service or Small Service. He's going to be an interesting player as well this season. And, it's he's not started amazingly well, but he's obviously the talisman for this team. But I think there's a chance he could stay up from what I've seen so far. But the problem is that you've got to be seeing that kind of game out. I mean, the way they fell apart after the 2-1 was pretty poor, in truth, and I'm not fully convinced by this goalkeeper Müller. Like, it seems to be he had a good season last year, but I thought he was a little bit poor at times. In after the 1-0, even on the first goal, could he have done a bit better there? Could he have done a bit better on the second goal after it comes off the post? I mean, it's a little bit unlucky, but you've got to be in big moments. You've got to do something really there. And then obviously the retaken penalty by Kramaric, he showed his quality to tuck that away. After being, in my opinion, pretty harshly pulled back for a retake. But yeah, I mean, Hoffenheim deserve credit. They were under pressure at 2-0 down, because that would have been 2 defeats out of 2 for them. That bails them out. But I think the problem with Hoffenheim is that I just don't see, as Peter mentioned, there seems to be no system to this team. I mean, Bulter has effectively come in to replace potentially even Baumgartner. I mean, it's just not, in my view, that's 4 number 9s they had on the pitch to start that game. I mean, Kramaric, Weghorst, Bulter, and Bebu as well. They're all number 9s, really, those players. And, and even Grilic. I mean, Grilic, I used to rate him in his first stint in Hoffenheim, but he seems to be a player very much on the way down to me. I think from what I heard from other people, he had an absolute disaster year at Ajax, and Ajax were pretty much begging him to leave the club, really, by the end. So I'm not sure that pivot's going to really work between Grilic and Prömel. I do like Grisha Prömel as a player, but I'm not sure that Grilic is going to come in and be the same player as he was. And as we mentioned before, they've got a whole squad of centre-backs as well. And I don't know. I don't like the look of this Hoffenheim team at all, if I'm being honest. And to be honest, that late comeback has bailed them out big time, to be honest, really, because they've not had a good year of transfer business, and I think they're going to be down in the bottom half this year. That's my view, anyway.
Yeah, I do not disagree with everything that's been said there. Being bailed out sounds about right, and Heidenheim will be desperately disappointed, and hopefully the emotion doesn't get to them too much and they can bounce back. But I think they've got Dortmund away on Friday night, so it doesn't get any easier. But anyway, we'll just skip really rush through our best of the rest section. So what we did last week, we just wanted to pick one headline, basically, between all three of us. I'm going to kick off, and it's not necessarily about the game, but I'm slightly worried about Frankfurt. So they have been rather uninspiring to start with. They obviously got the last-minute equaliser, some good work by Mbimbe, the substitute, setting up Marmoush for 1-1. Ultimately, mine should have killed the game yonks ago. And it was good character. But the Lindstrom deal is here we go from Fabrizio. If it's not already official, it basically is. So Lindstrom will be leaving. And there's confidence that Kolo Muani has played his last game for Frankfurt as well. And I worry for them, not in the sense of being relegated, but I worry in the sense of their, prospects this season. If and when they both go, how they replace them. The PSG youngster Itite has been, said that he's possibly going to be a replacement, but how well does that go? So yeah, that's my little snippet. I'm slightly worried about how Frankfurt are going to go. Top Moller obviously is fresh into the big role, the big daddy seat, so to speak. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how well the rest of the season goes to them, and particularly how well they bounce back if they do indeed lose Kolo Muani on top of Lindstrom. So that's my little headline. Mark, I'll come to you for a little snippet.
Yeah, I think for me, I just want to draw attention to Wolfsburg, what they're doing at the moment. I actually enjoyed their performance. I thought they played some beautiful football at Köln. I mean, the first half in that game was basically, in my view, a masterclass from Schweber. He kept them in the game, Köln in the game. Obviously, Waldschmidt scored a really nice goal as well to make it 1-0. He's not everybody's favourite player, Waldschmidt, but he did take that goal very well. But then, I mean, the bottle and the quality that Wolfsburg showed to come back, they weren't doing that at times last season. When they conceded the first goal, they were generally losing games, and they played really pretty football. Jonas Wind is a player that I've rated for a while, to be honest. I really do like him a lot. He's got 4 goals from his first 2 games. I think he's in for a big season this year if he can stay injury-free. I know that Wolfsburg are looking for another striker after the injury of Nemecha, but for me, Wind is the man. He's the man this year. And Wimmer had a good game despite missing a few chances, but he's a player that, is building on a half-decent first season last year. And, maybe Niko Kovac is finally starting to get things right at Wolfsburg.
Indeed. Watch out for Wolfsburg. And Peter, what's your little snippet from the weekend?
Congratulations to Maximilian Philippe for scoring a dramatic late winning goal upon his return to Freiburg against the club he played on loan for last season that didn't want to keep him. Congratulations to Jonas Wind, who has scored all of Wolfsburg's goals this season. Wind is blowing away the competition in the Bundesliga. And congratulations to, I deeply appreciated the Riviera derby. Not everybody's favorite match, but it was a highly intense match there between Bochum and Dortmund at the Vonovia Stadion, full of crunching tackles and just absolute brave football, mostly from Bochum, but Dortmund showed me some things as well. That was quite entertaining.
Very good, very good. Right, well, we've still got a few minutes left, and to much popularity and, calls for it to come back, we're going to finish off with Peter's Kiosk Klub. So Peter's going to run us through some of the headlines from Germany's top tabloids. So he'll run us through it. So he'll talk everyone through it, obviously, from so anyone that's not obviously viewing on YouTube and listening to the podcast, he shall verbally spell it all out for everyone. So over to you, Peter.
First. Yes, I thank all of the viewers for the comments and the positive feedbacks on this segment. It's great to know that there are fellow paper and print junkies out there who support journalism, support good journalism. We're going to start with the tabloid, though. Of course, we're going to start with Sportbild, and Robin Gosens is the story of the day. We're going to take you to Sherwood Forest and give you Robin Good. They've an on YouTube viewing audience. They've done a fabulous job mocking him up with his bow, his quiver, and his Robin Hood Men in Tights hat. So just well done on the Sportbild for that. The Süddeutsche today also ran with Gosens. He is the chameleon. This was in reference to that post-match interview that I was speaking about earlier. He is a hero of the Bundesrepublik. As Rory mentioned, 29-year-old Bundesliga debutant. He's been wanting to move to the Bundesliga his entire career. He is a Emmerich am Rhein native who was rejected by Schalke. And before he caught on in the Serie A, transfer rumors galore about him coming there. The kicker is also running with FC Union, plötzlich Platz Hirsch, which the alliteration does not translate, but it is suddenly top dog, FC Union Berlin. And the alliteration continues here as you open up the kicker, and the unerwartet Überflieger, or the unexpected high flyers. Germany is celebrating Union Berlin. They are in first place, courtesy of goal differential. We sung their praises quite a bit last week on the pod. We'll be singing their praises many more times this season, I assure you. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung ran a piece on Bayern's title challengers, and the headline is Jenseits von Vizekussen. And we did not refer to Leverkusen in this pod specifically, but it should be noted that they absolutely destroyed Gladbach in the Saturday night Topspiel. Victor Boniface grabbed his first brace. Sportbild called it the Boniface Bonbon, since brace in German is Doppelpack. But he had a fantastic game. Florian Wirtz had a fantastic game. Granit Xhaka is amazing. Alexander Grimaldo is great. Nathan Teller has been signed. Josip Stanisic is there. I don't know what they're going to do with all of these good players other than contend for the title. The local Badische Neue Nachrichten went with the party crash in Albregen. That is the Hoffenheim Heidenheim match that we were just talking about. I wanted to bring out that the Badische Neue Nachrichten Zeitung also noted that Oliver Kahn attended the Karlsruhe match this weekend, and the editorial page is practically begging him to come back to Karlsruhe. Kind of like saying, you know, you lost your job at that Wall Street brokerage firm, but you can always come back to McDonald's. But last but not least, for the Englishmen, we do have, Harry Kane has scored 3 goals. He's off to a good start. He could, you should keep in mind that Robert Lewandowski only scored 17 goals in his first year in a Bayern tricot. So he could definitely be. We're not going to have a Torschützenkönig race like last year, where we have Nicholas Füllkrug winning with, what was it, 16 goals. We have a lot of goal scorers in the Bundesliga this year, but Kane is probably going to be the best. The way that the Bild described it here on Monday morning is Elfer und Schlenzer. Elfer being the Elfmeter, the penalty, and Schlenzer being a how would you describe that? A sensation, a surprise, maybe a tracer bullet, because that was a great finish from him. It was a great assist from Alphonso Davies. It was a great ball, but very good finish with Harry Kane giving us a taste of what we're in store for here in the Bundesliga. Don't forget, Harry Kane's official intro music is from the 80s metal hair band, the Scorpions, Rock You Like a Hurricane. And the Scorpions also wrote Winds of Change. A lot of people don't know that, Winds of Change. Jonas Wind's interest music as well. That's all for the key. Thank you guys for supporting this segment, and I look forward to doing it again next week.
Top man. Thank you very much, Peter. That's brilliant. That will bring us to a delightful end for this evening. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in and watched with us this evening, or if you're watching in the morning or whenever you're watching it. We appreciate you all for listening and joining in. So it's been a very good second week of the Bundesliga. We look forward to match week 3 immensely. And so I shall hand over to Mark to close up for this evening.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, check out our Twitter at OverTheBarFB and at OverTheBarExtra. Also check out our main site, which is otbfootball.net. I almost said it wrong there, guys. Yeah, and then don't forget to keep liking, commenting, and subscribing. We are up and over 1,000. We can't believe it. We're still recovering from the champagne party after we hit the target on, I think it was early on Saturday morning we hit the big target, actually. It was a great way to start the weekend. But yeah, keep going. We're already up another 10 or so since then, so it's fantastic news. But keep telling your friends about it. We want to be on 2K, 3K, 10K, 100K. I think we even get one of those gold plaques if you get to 100K. So yeah, so that's what we want to have on the back here at some point. So yeah, guys, keep telling your friends and keep enjoying our stuff. And we'll see you later in the week, guys. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye, guys.
Cheers all.